I think we can get the opening pitch thrown. I'm going to try and fit as many analogies in. I probably will not be successful in all of them, so I might look to you for some of those scared. But best of luck to both of our players.
But maybe in the chat you guys can fill in. Do we have like baseball fans here?
Absolutely. Yeah. If we've got any MLB fans, any baseball nerds, please do go ahead and stick those in the chat. Give us some ideas.
Yeah, help us brainstorm the analogies.
Yeah, I've seen there's been I'll say some sort of chatter about, you know, different things in baseball. So like, what's the equivalent of like a sack fly? What's the equivalent of, you know, a walk and stuff like that? So I think there's going to be some fun things like that for us to explore as the season unfolds. But yeah, we're jumping it into our first game, and I saw someone talking about who's your opening day starter. Is it Killdeer? Well, it might just about be for Determinator.
You know, there's also like something to think about with that Mute Swan Ready Duck combo, and even the Horned Lark. Like, I know if you're going a water engine, that's a lot of food to be spending, but there's also a hummingbird in the tray. Like, I don't know, there's two possible kind of ways to go here, and both seem pretty strong.
They definitely are. Yeah, I think, like you say, hummingbird feels like a good option, kind of regardless of whichever way you want to go, right? You're getting some food either, you know, through a wetlands engine that's going to be scoring loads of points, seeing loads of cards, or through a grasslands engine that likewise you're going to be getting eggs, you're going to be getting cards. So we'll be interested to see. I mean, it looks like Determinator straight away has gone for that sort of Ruddy Duck Mute Swan combo, which, I mean, we know how potent that can be, how strong early on those tucks can be, and just seeing all those cards. And, you know, with that last end of round goal as well, maybe got a bit of an eye on that. Birds with the tuck cards you can quite easily stack up.
Yeah, so let me ask you, in this case, if you decide you're going water, I mean, you mentioned this hummingbird would be great for either water or grass, but like, do you get a card down before you lift that hummingbird and risk your opponent getting it? Because the thing is, like, if your opponent gets it, you're still getting food, right?
It's an interesting question. I think it depends a little bit, maybe what Determinator plays first. I think if I saw a Mute Swan go down first, I might be minded to go and block that.
Yeah.
So that might change things. But we've got some good birds over here as well. Immediately seeing Housefinch, which you'd like to see. And also the Kiwi, which could be interesting. But not
the bonuses
not a whole lot
don't
else.
Look great.
No.
Also, and so it's kind of like, well, you love seeing the Kiwi.
Absolutely.
If you're not super thrilled with your bonuses. That's like, you don't even have to dig for it.
Absolutely. And I wonder if this may well be a situation where Syzygy could look at keeping extra cards, and you maybe look at doing Forest Housefinch here and then cycle through a bunch. I think that's a strategy that can work quite well. And if that is the case, Hummingbird probably not going to get blocked, and Hummingbird probably going to be stronger for Determinator here.
I'd also, if you're going to do the Forest Housefinch, I'd consider the Sandpiper as well.
Absolutely.
And another card to cycle. I
think so.
I think that makes a lot of good sense. You don't know yet that your opponent has a Mute Swan and wants every card in the world.
Exactly. Yeah, I think, like you say, you keep that extra card. Condor probably going to get cycled, but there's a very kind of natural sequence of turns here where you can play the Housefinch in the forest, you take food, you cycle the Condor. If you get something good, well, you might look to play that, but otherwise you can just play that Sandpiper pretty quickly, draw some more cards, see a load of cards, and then you're just cycling away in the forest. So both players are going to be seeing lots of cards, I think, here, and I think that generally makes for a good game. You want players to be given options. I think as a viewer, definitely makes things exciting.
Agree. This definitely feels like a strong start for both of them, and like an anything can happen situation.
Absolutely. And as I say, might depend a little bit sort of the order that these players can get things down in. It looks like we are seeing Ruddy Duck maybe Or Determinator having second thoughts here. I think this is an interesting decision.
Ooh,
maybe go for the hummingbird. Okay,
interesting.
there we go.
I was wondering about playing Ready Duck first, also just to not make it like nothing's going on here. Don't be suspicious.
Exactly.
Know?
It is that situation.
That
that you don't want to give away too much information, and I don't know. I think it's always painful to go and draw, just a single card when you know you could have played either of those wetland birds, but. Sometimes if you want to be certain, and I think, this hummingbird does feel key for Determinator. I think especially now that we have, of course, seen House Finch going down in the forest. This hummingbird does feel like it's going to be central.
Yeah, if the hummingbird would be in the grass or the wetlands, because there's a question of like, do you want to be using it every time you do your main engine action, or just kind of have it pinch hit?
There we go. What was that? 7 minutes in.
I don't know.
You tried. I think it's a good effort. I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, I'll be honest. My first instinct was just stick it in the wetlands, right? Put hummingbird. I think especially here where you're up against the forest, I'm kind of looking at this and thinking I'm not really too bothered about giving some extra food away here, right? My opponent's going to want to take food as much as they can, use the House Finch power, and obviously get food at the same time. So that little bit of extra food not really going to come into play. And I can see both ways, because there's obviously an ideal mute sworn engine where each of those 5 slots in the wetlands is filled with a point scoring or card gaining brown power, and you get to a point in the game where you just run that engine, you just score points with the tucks, and you don't actually need any more food. But it is so nice to be able to just get the engine built out. I think with mute sworn, you need as many birds down as quickly as possible, and hummingbird could have been one of those birds, but not been the case here.
I'll tell you, I think with if I am the Determinator, I might be eyeing that moorhen in the tray as a block.
Could be an interesting one.
My opponent, like put down that House Finch. I'm kind of like, maybe we got to do something about that moorhen.
I mean, I do love me a good moorhead, and to be fair,
I know
with the GoldenEye, it's not terrible if you can, use the moorhen to play the GoldenEye, and then you also use the moorhen to get eggs on the GoldenEye. You can get some good synergy, but not the way it seems. I think Sandpiper seems broadly sensible. Obviously, knowing what we know, it may be a little bit of a risk, sort of from Syzygy's point of view, but I think certainly once the Swan goes down, I'm not going to feel too bad about giving away some extra cards to that wetlands. And both players with the co-op early, so again, we're just going to see more plentiful resources, more options available to both players, and I think that's going to be fun.
Yeah, potentially high-scoring game here.
Absolutely. All right.
Jumping off the tray. That's kind of fun.
That's interesting. I would have been quite tempted by the Tawdy Frogmouth there. I think it's a pretty reliable point scorer. Get that early, get that going in the forest, but
especially with the food access.
Exactly. Not been the way, but nice Hornbill as well. Some big pointers coming up. Some nice options. To be honest, if you're Determinator, I think maybe some of those are kind of the birds that you're looking for to play if you've got that extra food. But as we say, with the hummingbird in the grasslands, that's not been the route for this game. But Ready Duck's gone down, so the engine is being built, and we're seeing some strong starts, I think, in the forest on one side and in the wetlands on the other. So this should make for an exciting game, hopefully.
But like you're saying, they're both just starts. There's like some promising stuff on the horizon, but like this is the point in my game when I'm playing where I'm like, is this something? So we just kind of wait and find out. And I mean, I'm really curious. Like, I think the common GoldenEye for Syzygy could be a nice pickup. However, these other cavity, I'm trying to call everything the right thing. These other cavity nests, birds are pretty expensive, and they're not going down right now. So I'm kind of wondering whether that's a behaviorist pick or like a block, even though there's no cavity nests on the other side. So that was an interesting one, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a good option to pick up, because you don't always get that kind of power down round one, and that's often okay, because even if you do, you're not necessarily going to get loads of cavity nests and loads of eggs. I think certainly if you're looking at a forest engine approach and you're thinking, I'm looking for chickadees, I'm looking for nuthatches, you know, all of those kind of birds with the cavity nests that you're going to want to play anyway. Yeah. And if you can get some bonus eggs through a Gold Knight, it's certainly not a bad option to have. So, yeah, I think it was a reasonable pickup, but it's going to be almost impossible, I think, to get that down and sort of make that work at least in this first round. But maybe with the spotted owl. There's a rule 16 for you nice and early. Violet Green Swallow. Both players would have wanted that.
I know.
But yeah, Determinator will happily, having just now put the pieces of the engine together, and they'll take up an Ellie's Eagle as well. So very nice. Yeah, getting some good options coming up real early here. So this is looking like it's going to be a strong wetlands.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if I'm Determinator at this point, like I was just saying, it's, you know, you're in such a wait and see holding pattern. But after that draw, I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, like I've got a path.
Yeah.
Aside from kind of getting that swallow down, I mean, maybe I'd throw food instead of laying eggs just to have it one extra or throw a card to get food instead of laying eggs. I don't know.
It's interesting. I think, you know, it's in a situation here where kind of once that swallow's down, you know, you're only gaining 3 cards a turn, but you're also tucking sort of all of those behind the swan and then gaining 1. So it can be a little bit of a slow start until you've actually sort of got enough cards in your hand to reliably be able to tuck everything. And, you know, especially if you're picking up birds like Benelli's Eagle, you want to keep those. And so that is sometimes going to cost you a tuck where, you know, maybe you would like to have that extra card available. So it might depend if this Sandpiper is going to get used a bit more. I sort of get the feeling Syzygy is like not massively happy with what's in the hand and is just sort of trying to work with it. But I feel like maybe we might see the Rufus Owl go down, and then maybe it's just going to be about building out with some other cavity nests. But yeah, picking up some big point birds from the tray, kind of with an eye to maybe I'm going to have loads of food late in the game. I'm going to want to play some stuff. So that certainly makes sense.
You know, I really didn't mind that card that they just
the bunting.
Painted bunting,
It did seem like a bit of a, I don't know, trading away the bonus card when I think when you've got Kiwi, you know, it kind of gives you license to play more bonus card birds because the risk of drawing a blank is kind of mitigated when you know you can trade away. So I mean, they've obviously got the spotted owl as well, so that might be something that we see go down. But it certainly seems like sort of queuing up to try and get the Rufus Owl in the game, get this forest going a little bit more, and I think that makes sense. And yeah, certainly again from Determinator's point of view, being able to get this swallow down now, I mean, you know, we're looking at a 4-point engine here going into round 2 that's just going to see so many cards, and yeah, that's just going to be very, very powerful indeed. So some good starts here, but definitely feels like Determinator getting off to that slightly quicker start with the nice swallow reveal on the tray, and obviously Benelli's Eagle in the hand with that falconer. That's going to be a pretty straightforward play later on. So yeah, been a good round, I think, for Determinator, that's for sure.
And I think it's been a good round for both of them. It's just a little bit slower over on Syzygy's side.
It is, yeah. I think it certainly feels like, I think maybe Syzygy's had the slower start now, but will kind of reap the rewards of that as time goes on. And Puffin, very nice. You want to be picking that up from the tray. But yeah, I certainly can see maybe a situation where Determinator gets a little bit stuck where, you know, they haven't necessarily got the food. You know, I'm imagining they find like a catbird or something, even as the dream bird. That's going to take a while to get down. You know, you need to get the eggs, you need to get the food. It's not kind of an instant pick up and play, which it feels like in this situation kind of most birds are for Syzygy, right? With this food access and the card cycle and everything. So quite different situations for both players to be in. But yeah, some nice birds coming up.
Powerful.
Absolutely. So
yeah, that's interesting. The diver. I was wondering about kind of blocking that.
Well, they might not need it now if they're going to go with that wood duck, but I think that was quite interesting as well, the dive. It feels like there's enough cards here to maybe not need a bird like that, but I see maybe an element of blocking, but I don't know. If I've got Determinator's board, I'm not looking for more card access right now. I'm looking for more point scorers. So, I think with the Ruddy Duck in there, that's kind of enough to do what you want to do and get enough cards to be tucking behind this Mute Swan, and that's kind of the main priority, really. But Wood Duck. A very interesting time for Wood Duck to come up, I think. You'd ideally want that a couple of turns sooner, but still worth playing, do you think, in this situation?
Yes. Especially, I like that it's a cavity nest, and I think it helps the common goldeneye sitch.
Absolutely.
Where are my baseball metaphors? The chat's very quiet.
Yeah, we need some ideas. Baseball fans out there, please help us.
Does nobody play baseball or watch baseball?
Everyone's just here for the Wingspan. No one's here for the baseball. I need to rack my brains to see what we can come up with. But I think you're right. I'd sort of maybe have some hesitancy because you kind of think, I've already got loads of cards, do I kind of need any more cards? But you can always throw this for food. You've got some pretty expensive birds. And like you say with the cavities, I can certainly see a situation here where you very easily, get a couple of cavity nest birds down, you get down a goldeneye, and you pick up those extra eggs, and that's going to be really, really nice.
Yeah, totally. And I was wondering about that collared dove because the collared dove feels like an obvious pick for Syzygy, but also Syzygy has a lot of birds that are expensive in his hand right now. And so I'm kind of like, is that a trap? Or I don't know. Maybe it's good.
I think it's good. I think it's worth picking up at the very least, because you never know what you're going to find. Yeah. Maybe you're going to, run into some food co-op that actually could work for you, or even just building out this forest a little bit more. It kind of gives you a license to go and just take food even in those later rounds where you might not want to take food, but actually your forest is quite strong and it's scoring you loads of points, to be able to score points and then also get food, which is also worth points. I think that's a nice flexible option to have. So free food here potentially being really helpful, because I would be looking at forcing down this wood duck now with the extra food, and then exactly. Then use that food, use that extra food that you're then gaining to, hopefully get the goldeneye down. But we'll see. Could be interesting.
Would you just try to fill up the fourth slot up in the forest as soon as possible? Then, so maybe this round you're trying to get down the wood duck, the common goldeneye, and I don't know, maybe the whatever that food tucker's called. I'm sorry.
The collar dove. Yeah, I think maybe. I think that could be a good idea. That could be a good option. It depends how much they want to look at this end of round goal, because that could be a pretty easy win, to be honest, if that's an option to explore. Because, you kind of look at Determinator's board and you think, A, he's not got a bird in the forest, and B, he's not actually generating that many eggs when he is laying eggs. And, he's got so much else to be getting on with in that wetlands that, is that really going to be an option to explore? Probably not. So this feels like it could be quite a give up end of round for Determinator. And then there's 5 points just sat there waiting to be claimed if you're Syzygy, which kind of feels a bit silly to go and leave. But again, Syzygy's got so much to be doing, so many nice birds to be trying to get down, and which order you get them down in I think is going to be key. But this might be a situation where you can't afford to be greedy and you can't afford to keep all of these birds, and maybe some of these, or maybe one of them, is going to have to get sacrificed at some point. But I like the wood duck play. I think being able to just get those extra cards, as I say, maybe make that decision a bit easier. Maybe you can throw those for food or eggs or whatever it's going to be, and just sort of put yourself in a strong position. But we kind of got two titans. We've got wood duck against mute swan, so the power hitters have really come out here in this opening day, which
Yeah, they're
making
like
for a good
top
game.
of the lineup.
Absolutely. Your all-star pitters coming out.
Yeah. And I was just thinking about, like, is there anything that we're seeing that is sort of analogous? Oh, the Phoebe in the forest is interesting. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting myself.
Yeah. What do you make of that? I don't know. I mean, I'll let you finish your point if you had something interesting to say.
No. I was just thinking it's interesting, but it's speculative and doesn't have much to do with the game. So it must be an end of round.
I think so.
Play, although I would have much preferred to see the Goshawk go there at least, because I don't think that the Determinator's going to be using this Kakapo or the Cassowary.
No, I don't think so.
And so I actually was a little bit wondering if he was going to end up playing that Phoebe into the 4th slot in the water just to, like, have more cards because of these two tucking predators. You want more cards to play, but you also need cards to tuck. So yeah, I'm a little surprised the Phoebe went into the forest.
Yeah, I am too. I think if I was going to play it, I think that would be the one habitat I wouldn't play it into. I think, like you say, you could put it in the wetlands, easy get some more cards and get some food at the same time, or you stick it in the grasslands, and then actually, when you are laying eggs because you need to play more birds, you're actually getting those 2 food, which you might then also need to play the birds that you want to play. So this does feel a little bit spreading out things a bit too thin. I'm not sure how much usage that Phoebe's really going to get, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, even if you are going to want to go for this end of round goal, what's that going to look like? Picking up 2 nectar. Are we going to see Kakapo go down?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Are we going to see Cassowary come in for a sneaky stolen base at the end of round goal? Is that going to work as an analogy? I'll stick with it.
Or like a pinch. It's a pinch something. Maybe it's a pinch runner because it's like taking the Phoebe's place.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea actually. Yeah. Pinch running for the Phoebe's kind of done its job with the one food game, but I don't know. I thought that was a little bit strange, but I don't know. Like you say, might be seeing an end of round play. I mean, it certainly feels like both players, if they want the end of round goal, they're going to have to work quite hard for it because neither of them are sort of in ideal situations where laying eggs is natural. They're both having to go out of their way to do it, which is, never ideal. It's never really a situation you want to be in.
And it definitely seems like both of them see each other's struggle with this end of round. So it's kind of like, we could both ignore it, but like that's pretty appealing. That's a big point gain if your opponent gets 0.
Absolutely.
So but it's tough with a full tuck. You kind of want to stay focused. It's
this feels very distracted. I think
it feels distracted, and I'll say I also, just because of this Falconer bonus that the Determinator is holding, I'm very tempted on his behalf by this wedge-tailed eagle in the tray, which I know. It's a lot of food.
I love a good wedge-tailed eagle, so you're in good company here. I think that would be a good play, and it's not a bad option with the Falconer as well. But yeah, this does feel quite distracted. I think, like I say, you're going full tuck, you're going wetlands. You want to put all of your best birds in that habitat and kind of use every turn you can during cards. It feels like, we had a turn to play the Phoebe, we had a turn to take food, and then a turn to take Cassowary. And at the end of that, we've only got the 8 points that we're seeing from the 4 on the Cassowary and the 4 eggs, which, compared to the points that could have been scored just by drawing cards, feels like a bit of a miss. But looks like we're seeing no end of round goal for Syzygy either. So
totally.
I think that makes sense to leave.
I mean, I guess you see the Cassowary and you're like, what am I going to do?
Well, exactly. I think that feels right.
Right. It makes me a little anxious a tree swallow. I was going to say it makes me a little bit anxious to leave that 4th slot in the wetland a question mark after 2 rounds, but maybe this tree swallow is solving that problem.
I think that's answered the question mark for sure. There's still time, you could easily pick that up, and then assuming, that laying eggs might be necessary, it's probably not going to be, but if that might be something that Determinator wants to do, then you can always grab the worm at the same time and then get the tree swallowed down kind of as quickly as possible in the next round. But yeah, I think that's got to be picked up because, you know, like you said, with the goshawk, we want to see that go down. With the Benelli, we want to see that go down. So you're going to need extra cards to feed those, and that's where just building out this wetlands, getting an extra bird down so that you're just generating more cards. That's where that is just so important.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Interesting. So that's going into the water, which I was wondering, just because, I don't know, it's my anxiety. I'm like, get the 4th slot filled in your engine, and to be fair, that common goldeneye is not going to be doing much in an engine. It's doing nothing, but at least you get more food.
It's more food, which is potentially more points if you're going with this collared dove, right? So yeah, totally. I think this is the point of the game where you're going from round 2 into round 3, where you can't afford to be picky about which birds you're going to play. You know, you're not going to find that amazing engine bird, and even if you did, you're not going to have enough time to really get any usage out of it. So yeah, get the big points down, get the goldeneye in. I'd be putting that in the forest, but if it's going in the wetlands, I think you've got to be playing spotted owl quickly. You've got to be maybe looking at that warbler as well in the next round just to really get the food going, because you know, we've still got puffin to play. We've still got the kiwi to play as well, so lots and lots of nice options. They're going to need lots of food. So
and eggs, exactly. So yeah, like you want to get those cavity nests or star nests first down kind of soon.
100%. I think that's got to be the target for this round. Is going to be playing really 2 cavity nests, right? So that you can max out the goldeneye this round, you can max it out next round as well. That feels important to be doing.
Yeah, it really does, because the eggs are really a weakness over on that side. I mean, they're a weakness on both sides, right? But the Determinator seems to be sort of in a happier place egg-wise.
I think Determinator's probably good, to be honest, for eggs. I mean, 4 eggs, you know, you're looking at maybe that final wetland bird if you do find a catbird or a mockingbird or something, and then you've still got room to play Benelli and goshawk with those eggs. So
that's your game,
and that's your game. You know, once you've got that wetlands going, there's not really much need to be laying more eggs or playing more birds or doing anything like that. So that will obviously depend a lot what comes up, but it may just be drawing cards and playing 1 or 2 birds from here on in. But interesting that this Rybill's been left. I mean, I was trying to rack my brains as to what the other starting bonus cards were, but when you're playing so many bonus card birds, you know, like you said, with the kiwi, with the puffin, with the owl, I feel like it's nice to just have a Rybill just there, just in case, because there's always those situations where you draw 2 amazing bonus cards and wish you could keep both. So that's where it's nice to have the backup option there. But yeah,
because for Syzygy, both of his opening bonus cards were like not great, and so it's kind of like, you know, there's a lot of good ones out there.
Exactly.
And yeah, you're about to see a bunch of them. You're right.
So
I also just want to go back for a second to, I think, the last turn of last round 2 for the Determinator. He ended up getting food, and you know, in order to play that tree swallow, which understood, I would want that swallow down as soon as possible. But what do you think of the getting food instead of laying eggs? You know, is that a defensive, like wanting to keep food from Syzygy?
I mean, maybe, but I don't know. I didn't notice that. I would have been laying eggs there for the points, and then
and for the eggs,
well, exactly. Give away 1 food to a forest engine is like, you know, whatever. Am I really going to need that second food? And if I do, well, I can just lay eggs again. But yeah, there's no guarantee, especially, as I say, with the goshawk, with the Benelli, you know, with these big birds to be playing. But it looked like did Determinator take food again there? So maybe Butcher Bird is with the Falconer, of course. So
it's a little late for the Butcher, but I don't hate that. I mean, if you're now just going to be drawing and then playing those 2 Falcons, you know, that's cool.
I think there's probably just about time to make it still work, and I think the Falconer definitely helps towards that. But yeah, I think, like I say, we're getting to that stage of the game where you're probably going to play that last wetland bird. You're probably then just going to play your Benelli and your goshawk, or maybe you trade the goshawk for the other eagle if you can find that. But either way, you only need those 2 eggs. You're good. There's not enough turns left to really be doing much else. So draw cards. Fingers crossed on the butcher bird, but you're going to get mute swan tuck, so you're going to get loads of points later on. So that's always nice.
Yeah, and you see Syzygy. Okay, yeah, I was looking at the collared dove, thinking, it's got to be a now or never. I mean, and not immediately now, but this round, right?
Yeah.
Or never.
Yeah, and I think if he's looking, it depends how much he's looking at this behaviorist, right? Because if you are looking at behaviorist, you certainly don't want to be putting collar dove in the second column, and then there's just no way you're going to get enough stuff down that it's going to fit in column 3. I mean, is it bird band, or was that the pickup from the owl? Because that certainly diet specialist. Okay. Well, I mean, that's going to be pretty straightforward. So
right, you've got the kiwi and the puffin, and I mean, you have to play those.
You got to play them. Yeah, I mean, I wonder if 3 turns left here. If it's you, I think you want to get puffin down for the star nest for the extra cavity on the golden eye. I think you could easily play the dove and take food, and that's going to sort you out for points. You're going to have plenty of food to be tucking under that. And like you say, it does feel like now or never, right? It's not really a bird you often see played in the last round. It can still work, but
I mean,
we'll see.
A 5-point bird plus 5 tucks is nothing to shake a stick at, especially if you're getting 3 points for a column. So, like, I see that's still a good move, but just thinking about 5 additional points, even if it takes away those 3, it's like, I don't know. I think if it were me, I think puffin's the way to go. I think I'd want to see what other bonuses I have just to see what makes sense to play.
I agree. I think if you're playing puffin, play it now. I don't think the warbler necessarily needs to go down, because you don't know if that's going to be the best play, right? Maybe you pick up bird counter or something, or some other reason which means you need to look at a different bird in your hand. So I think that kind of information is useful.
Yeah, or food web expert, which
indeed,
a strong game for that. But
but yeah,
board looks underdeveloped. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think eggs are the issue, and I think it's difficult seeing the warbler go down, because while I understand the warbler is a good play, that's a nice big point bird, it's still a cup nest. And if I'm Syzygy, I'm freaking a little about eggs, and I just want to get down. Like, I would even think about the kiwi already and the puffin, and just really get eggs on that golden eye.
I think it sort of makes me question as well, what's the extra turn this round, right? You've got 2 more turns, you're going to play a bird, what are you going to do with the other one? Because you don't want to take food, because you can't take that much nectar. You're only going to be able to take, maybe 1 nectar, and then you're taking some other random food so that it doesn't get discarded. Whereas, like I say, if you go with the collar dove, that allows you to take extra nectar. And okay, you probably don't need to worry about nectar points here, because you're up against a full tuck. You should be beating that quite easily anyway. But you still want to be able to grab, that food just for the flexibility, and that's kind of not really necessarily going to be the case here. And again, it comes down a little bit to what's the plan for the final round. I think certainly this is the stage of the game where you should be having a plan for what your final round is going to be. Is it going to be the penguin? At what point does the kiwi go down? Do you still play the collar dove? Those are the kind of questions that I'd want to be trying to have answers to at this stage of the game. So there goes puffin.
And I think seeing the puffin go down and not the dove makes me think we're going to do kiwi column 2 in the grass, and then dove column 3.
I think so. But that, again, that kind of feels like setting up a behaviorist that isn't necessary, because you just picked up large birds. If you're going to look at, I think penguin could still be a good option here. I think if you play penguin and kiwi, that's going to max you out on large birds and on diet specialist for 6 points. So you don't actually need to try and get 6 points off behaviorist if you're going to have to discard 6 anyway. So there's definitely a few different paths, but I think it certainly does seem like, as you say, with the warbler going down, it's maybe going to be kiwi, and then maybe it's going to be collared dove. But I don't know, that feels like even then you're still going to have some extra food. So maybe that's where penguin comes in as well. But certainly a few options here. that I think Syzygy's going to have to think about. Unless, obviously, with Wood Duck and House Finch, maybe you find something better. But yeah,
right.
By far, there's no guarantee that that's going to be the case. So we'll see what comes up. But yeah, Determinator's just been drawing cards kind of as expected. Butcherbird's doing all right, but really you're just looking for points, looking for tucks, looking for that other eagle. Otherwise, I think the end game should be more straightforward here for Determinator. Probably not too many choices. So we're coming into round 4. I was trying to work out if this is where the 7th inning stretch is. I feel like this is where it would be.
Yeah, probably.
You know, between round 3 and 4.
Tell them to stop.
Yeah, they need to stop and go and stretch their legs. But
we'll play the music. We'll stop serving beer.
Absolutely, but I mean, I think this is the time where I'm gonna get a poll up.
That's the way to stretch.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna stretch my fingers as I type the players' names out. But we want to hear from you, the viewers in the featured nest, who you think will win this game. And it might change your vote with that lovely Woodstalk that's just come up. So that certainly feels like an upgrade on, let's say, what could have potentially been a Penguin player, and see the Spoonbill there as well. So lots and lots of nice options. And again, this is kind of where I look back at that Warbler play and think, well, if you played some other bird then, now you'd have time to be able to play all these other lovely birds, whereas now you've kind of got too much good stuff and not enough time to get all of it down. So and not enough eggs. You know, if you want to do Spoonbill and Woodstalk, you then can't play the Kiwi. So this could be interesting to see how things go and which decisions are going to be made. And lots of bonus card gambles late on. I think that could definitely cause a bit of a swing in this game.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so on Determinator side, they're going to play obviously Benelli, but like, is Goshawk worth it here?
It's borderline, isn't it? It's kind of borderline.
Yeah, it is. I think you see what your opponent does with end of round, but then also, I mean, the Falconer is what pushes it to like. Yeah, maybe.
I think it is. I think it is still worth it, just because of Falconer, right? You know, if you're playing that, I think maybe. I know he's kind of looking at this Warbler. I'm not sure that's especially worth it.
Yeah.
But that might just be because his stream froze as he happened to be hovering over it, and not an indictment on how much he wanted to play it. But it feels like I think you keep digging. You delay those plays until the last 2 turns, because you know you're only going to play 2 birds anyway, so you're not going to need extra time to play more things. But yeah, I mean, even if the Butcherbird hits, you know, you get, what is it, 7 points, and I think that's kind of, that might actually be the same, or might even be less than the Goshawk with the Falconer bonus card. So yeah, that probably will be a play, but I think we'll see. And like you say, there's an element of reacting to your opponent, but you know, with the birds with tuck cards end around, I feel like Determinator's probably got that in the bag either way. But yeah, some
20 water engine isn't great according to Motherlove. But Motherlove, I don't know where you're getting 6, because Butcherbird gives you 2.
Butcherbird gives you 2, and it gives you 2 every time.
Every time.
There's no missing. It doesn't miss.
No question.
Nope.
Yep.
Absolutely not. But I do agree. I think, you know, it's, I don't know. I mean, I almost go back. We didn't really talk about it at the start, but Mute Swan Ruddy Duck. I'd rather have Mute Swan Hummingbird, I think, as my opening 2. I'd
the
rather.
Ruddy Duck is
it's not doing anything for you right now.
It's not doing anything. It's a starter, right? Yeah. Like when you have Mute Swan, you're like, this is helping me look through cards. But then, like after you build it out, like one more slot, you're like, what am I doing with this Ruddy Duck?
Yeah. I think because Ruddy Duck was in the hand, but Hummingbird was in the tray. But yeah, I think yeah. As I say, we didn't really touch on it too much, but I think it's always easy to look back in hindsight. But certainly, just I think the food as well. You know, we saw so many turns for Determinator taking food and not scoring points, whereas if you have the Hummingbird down there, you're scoring points and you're getting food at the same time, and that's just really, really strong. So I think that could have made a difference. And obviously, there are situations where you draw, as I say, that mutes that catbirds, mockingbird, maybe even main duck, and then you think, boy, am I glad I got this ruddy duck for the extra cards. But those are the exception rather than the rule, I think, in these sort of situations. And yeah,
totally. And when you're full tuck, you're like expecting to at the end be running your engine, and yeah, like having something just giving you more cards at the end is like, woof.
Absolutely. Yeah,
you need points. Yeah,
indeed. Yeah, this is the point where Determinator is just going to end with like a million cards in hand, and cards don't score you points unless they're tucked, and these aren't tucked.
No, if it were a chiff chaff, we could tuck, but exactly. It's not a chiff chaff.
It is not a chiff chaff, so
you can't tuck.
Indeed.
And yeah, it looks like Syzygy is at this sort of decision point
where what do you do here?
There's yeah, right. So interesting. I feel like it's pretty straightforward to play Kiwi.
Kiwi and Dove, yeah?
Yeah. I think Kiwi and Dove.
I think that's gotta be the play.
Like he was considering the spoonbill as well.
Yeah, I just don't think that's gonna work. It's way too inconvenient to spend the extra turn laying eggs just to get that down.
Exactly.
And
we got egg problems.
Yeah, and I think now that the Woodstock bonus card, it's not bad, 4 points, but actually because you can get 6 off Behaviorist, and then you're looking at 6 on the other 2. I think you're pretty straightforward discard there.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can then see what those other 4 bonus cards are going to be. I mean, I think, to be fair, Syzygy's actually picked up some pretty good ones, but there's still like Ecologist is still out there. You got a couple of Star Nests, so maybe Mechanical Engineers on the cards, although I've not actually counted the nests. But certainly, there's some big pointers out there that could do really well. And there's the other eagle. So there you go, right on cue on the last possible turn. So that's
nice.
Well, that's 3 extra points now for Determinator, so that's nothing.
And I'm sitting here like, do they play the Goshawk? Like, trust the deck.
That's why you wait. Trust the deck.
Yeah.
That's why you wait in this situation, because you don't need to rush it down. So yeah, those 3 extra points, you like to see that. That could be important, and yeah, we'll see on this bonus play as well. I mean, this Kiwi. I've seen Kiwi swing games, because big Kiwi play could be like, you're drawing 15 points of bonus cards, and sometimes you play it and you draw 4 duds, so it can easily make a big difference. With just one single play, one single swing of the bat. Is it going to be a grand slam, or are you going to ground into a triple play?
Yeah.
There you go. I've been saving that one up.
Those are so rare. Let's not have one here.
Well, but I mean, so's drew 4 blanks on a Kiwi. It's rare, but it happens. So you gotta be ready for it. You never know.
It feels right now like he's thinking about Bluebird into.
I just don't like that.
I know, we're like very much expecting this Kiwi to be played.
It's got to go down. I think. I don't know. I suppose there's a scenario where you think, I'm so comfortably ahead that I don't want to risk it, but I don't know. I don't think we're in that world, and I would 100% in Syzygy's situation be looking over at Determinator thinking, you've got like 50 cards in hand. You probably have got at least one, if not both eagles. So you've got to be ready for that situation. And yeah, it looks like we are seeing skipping Kiwi.
Oh.
Now, you don't see that often. That's a niche.
You don't.
That's a niche situation right there. So,
I know.
Wow. I don't know about that.
I don't know about it either.
Not
I would gamble except for,
not feeling confident. We got booing in the stands. That's how controversial of a decision that was.
That's like throwing the ball back into the park.
I don't know. I don't like that play. Yeah. If you're going to play Kiwi, you got to use it. I know that it works for the bonus cards, but I think I've only skipped a Kiwi once, and I think that's because all of my bonus cards were like 7 points.
Oh yeah, totally.
When you're on a 4,
I've skipped it before too, and a 4, I definitely would, toss it. And I also don't want this to get buried, because we're like the chat is going crazy about the Kiwi thing. But Fly You Go Fly says Benelli on the last turn is like bringing your closer in the bottom of the ninth, and I like that. Like,
that's a good analogy.
Eagle is your ace, it's your closer.
Yeah, well, because you can rely from it, right? You can rely on it to come in and do the goods and get the points, and that's what it's done. So I don't know. I feel like this could be close. This is hard to tell. Like, Determinator's going to come in with those sneaky tucks at the end, but Syzygy did have the strong bonus points, and also is going to pick up the nectars at the end. So yeah, I don't know.
This is a very fun game to watch.
This has been. It's had its twists and turns. It's kind of gone one way or the other, and we've had these controversial moments at the end. So it's going to be tight, I think. Close. Yeah, Syzygy is going to hold on for the win. Indeed, that nectar points at the end. But 132, 120, both big scores. As we said, fun game for sure. Lots of co-op with the Sandpiper, with the Hummingbird, with that very short-lived Phoebe as well, that we did see very, very briefly come into the game. But there we go. That was, very, very interesting, very kind of tricky end game to negotiate. As we say, some controversial decisions as well.
But that's fun. That's what happens in baseball.